Welcome back to Silent Conspiracy. Picture this. October 2022, Kerala. A couple desperate for wealth sits across from a tantric who promises prosperity through blood. Not animal blood, human blood. Two women will die, believing they're participating in healing rituals. Their bodies will be mutilated, their flesh consumed, their organs buried like seeds in cursed soil. Tonight, the case that shattered Kerala's image as God's own country and exposed how desperation transforms neighbors into cannibals, healers into killers, and ancient rituals into modern murder. It begins with absence. September 2022. Rosalie, a 49-year-old woman from Elanthoor, vanishes. October. Padma, 52, from Ernakulam district, disappears. Both women share troubling similarities: financial struggles, health problems, vulnerability to promises of quick solutions. Their families file missing person reports, but in Kerala's migrant-heavy communities, people move for work, for family, for reasons that don't always leave forwarding addresses. The disappearances register as concern, not alarm. But these women haven't traveled for opportunity. They've been lured by promises of prosperity rituals, healing ceremonies that will solve their problems with the power of ancient knowledge. They walk into what they believe are spiritual sessions. They never walk out. The masterminds are a couple in crisis, Bhagaval Singh and Layla, residents of Elanthoor in Pathanam Theta district. Their financial situation is desperate: mounting debts, failed business ventures, the suffocating pressure of middle-class aspirations colliding with harsh reality. They've tried conventional solutions, loans, investments, prayers at temples. Nothing works. Their desperation makes them perfect clients for someone who promises wealth through darker means. Enter Mohammed Shafi, a 52-year-old man who operates under the title of tantric or spiritual healer. Two desperate people, he offers the ultimate solution: human sacrifice rituals that will unlock unlimited prosperity. Not metaphorical, sacrifice, actual murder. Performed according to specific ritualistic requirements that will please spirits and unlock material wealth. The cost is steep, but the promise is irresistible. Kill two women in prescribed ways, and financial problems will vanish forever. The recruitment strategy is methodical and cruel. Shafi and the couple target women who are isolated, struggling, and susceptible to spiritual manipulation. They approach potential victims with offers of healing services, prosperity rituals, or solutions to health and financial problems. The initial contact appears benign: spiritual consultation, a blessing ceremony, traditional healing that Kerala's culture readily accepts. Rosalie and Padma are approached separately with similar promises. They're told about powerful rituals that will solve their problems, ceremonies that require their participation as willing recipients of spiritual intervention. The language is carefully crafted. This isn't harm, it's healing. This isn't exploitation, it's empowerment. Both women, facing their own struggles, accept what they believe are genuine offers of help. The killings follow ritualistic patterns that blur the line between religious ceremony and sadistic murder. Both women are brought to the couple's home under the pretense of participating in healing rituals. Once there, they're subjected to what Shafi describes as necessary spiritual procedures. The murders involve strangulation and dismemberment, but the horror extends beyond killing. Following Shafi's instructions, the couple engages in cannibalistic acts, consuming parts of the victim's flesh as part of the ritual requirements. Other body parts are buried in specific locations around their property, creating what they believe is a spiritual circuit that will channel prosperity to their home. The level of mutilation suggests both ritualistic purpose and psychological breakdown. This isn't quick killing nights, prolonged torture justified by supernatural beliefs and financial desperation. The breakthrough comes through routine police work combined with community vigilance. As missing person investigations continue, authorities begin mapping the last known locations and contacts of both women. Digital footprints, witness statements, and financial records create a pattern that points toward the Elanthoor area. In October 2022, police receive information that leads them to search the property belonging to Bhagaval Singh and Layla. What they find defies comprehension. Human remains buried in multiple locations, evidence of ritualistic activities, and a house that reeks of death disguised as devotion. The forensic examination reveals the full scope of the horror: dismembered body parts, Evidence of cannibalism, ritualistic arrangements that suggest systematic rather than impulsive killing. The crime scene tells a story of murder performed with religious conviction and complete moral detachment. All three suspects are arrested in October 2022: Bhagval Singh, Layla, and Mohammed Shafi. Their confessions paint a chilling picture of how economic desperation and spiritual manipulation can transform ordinary people into cannibalistic killers. Shafi admits to orchestrating the murders, positioning himself as a tantric with knowledge of powerful rituals requiring human sacrifice. He describes the specific requirements. The victims must be willing participants initially. The killings must follow prescribed methods, and consumption of flesh is essential for the ritual's effectiveness. The couple confesses to participating in both murders, detailing how they lured the women, participated in the killings, and consumed human flesh, believing it would bring prosperity. Their statements reveal complete psychological capture. They genuinely believed they were performing religious duties rather than committing murder. Investigation into Mohammed Shafi reveals a man who systematically exploited Kerala's spiritual traditions for personal gain and psychological gratification. He presents himself as possessing ancient knowledge, someone who can access supernatural powers that conventional religion cannot reach. His method involves identifying vulnerable individuals, those facing financial crises, health problems, or family conflicts, and gradually escalating their commitment to increasingly extreme rituals. He begins with conventional ceremonies, builds trust through psychological manipulation, then introduces concepts of human sacrifice as the ultimate solution to persistent problems. The psychological profile suggests a sophisticated predator who understands how desperation makes people susceptible to radical solutions. He doesn't create the desperation, he exploits it, channeling legitimate spiritual seeking into murderous activity. Case sends shockwaves through Kerala's communities, challenging comfortable assumptions about the state's social progress and religious tolerance. Kerala prides itself on high literacy rates, progressive politics, and rational discourse. The idea that educated adults could be manipulated into cannibalistic murder contradicts the state's self-image. Local communities react with horror and introspection. How did neighbors not notice? What signs were missed? The case forces uncomfortable conversations about how financial pressure and spiritual manipulation can corrupt even educated modern individuals. Religious leaders across denominations condemn the murders, while acknowledging that genuine spiritual traditions can be corrupted by fraudulent practitioners who exploit faith for criminal purposes. Processing the Aluva case presents unique challenges for Kerala police and forensic teams. The ritualistic nature of the crimes requires understanding both criminal methodology and religious symbolism. Evidence must be preserved while respecting the spiritual beliefs of investigators and community members. The cannibalistic elements demand careful forensic analysis to establish exactly what occurred and which body parts were consumed versus buried. DNA analysis becomes crucial for identifying remains and establishing the sequence of events. Psychological evaluation of the suspects becomes essential for understanding whether this represents temporary insanity, long-term psychotic behavior, or rational decision-making corrupted by false beliefs. Investigation reveals that this isn't an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of fraudulent tantrics, exploiting vulnerable individuals across Kerala and neighboring states. Similar cases begin emerging, people approached with promises of prosperity through increasingly extreme rituals. The case highlights how traditional spiritual practices can be weaponized by predators who understand the psychological vulnerabilities that drive people to seek supernatural solutions to material problems. The line between legitimate faith and criminal exploitation becomes a crucial area of analysis. Authorities begin mapping networks of fraudulent spiritual practitioners and identifying communities most vulnerable to this type of manipulation. The case proceeds through Kerala's courts with charges including murder, conspiracy, destruction of evidence, and violations of laws protecting human dignity. The ritualistic nature of the crimes adds complexity to legal proceedings as courts must address questions of intent, premeditation, and psychological competency. Defense arguments focus on the suspect's genuine belief in the ritual's effectiveness, arguing that they were manipulated by Shafi's false promises rather than acting with criminal intent. Prosecution maintains that murder is murder regardless of spiritual justification. The case becomes a test of how modern legal systems handle crimes motivated by distorted religious beliefs in a secular democracy that protects religious freedom while preventing religious exploitation. The Aluva case raises fundamental questions about the intersection of poverty, education, and spiritual vulnerability in modern India. How do economic pressures make educated adults susceptible to obviously fraudulent promises? What social support systems could prevent such manipulation? The case also examines how traditional spiritual practices survive in modern contexts and how they can be corrupted by individuals seeking personal gain. The challenge becomes protecting legitimate religious expression while preventing criminal exploitation. Kerala's response becomes a case study in how progressive states handle crimes that challenge their social narratives and force confrontation with uncomfortable realities about human behavior. Beyond the sensational details of cannibalism and ritual murder lie to women whose lives were cut short by others' greed and delusion. Rosalie and Padma were seeking solutions to real problems: financial struggles, health issues, family conflicts that drive people to seek help from spiritual sources. Their families struggle with grief, compounded by the horrific nature of their deaths. The ritualistic murders add layers of trauma, as loved ones must process not just loss, but the degradation their family members suffered. The case highlights how victims of spiritual exploitation are often doubly victimized, first by the crimes committed against them, then by sensational coverage that focuses on the bizarre rather than the human cost. The Aluva case forces examination of how communities can protect vulnerable members from spiritual exploitation without suppressing legitimate religious practice. Education alone proves insufficient. The suspects were literate adults who made conscious decisions to participate in murder. Prevention requires addressing the underlying vulnerabilities that make people susceptible to manipulation, economic insecurity, social isolation, lack of mental health support, and absence of community networks that could provide alternative solutions to life problems. The case becomes a study in how traditional societies can maintain spiritual openness while developing immunity to predators who exploit faith for criminal purposes. What transforms spiritual seeking into murderous ritual? Can economic desperation really convince educated adults to commit cannibalistic murder? Or does it reveal darker truths about human psychology and social vulnerability? How do we protect religious freedom while preventing spiritual exploitation? Share your thoughts respectfully behind this horror. Are families still grieving unimaginable loss? If this exploration of Kerala's most shocking ritual murders held your attention, like this video, subscribe to Silent Conspiracy. Ring the bell for more cases where faith collides with criminality. Next time, we investigate another case where the line between belief and delusion becomes dangerously blurred, where trust becomes the deadliest weapon of all. Until then, stay skeptical of easy solutions. Question those who promise supernatural rewards for extreme actions. And remember, the most dangerous predators often wear the masks of healers.